All right, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about a really smart Layer 2 solution on Cardano called Chimera, and it's designed to fix a problem that, let's be honest, has been holding crypto back from being used every day. That super frustrating wait time when you're just trying to buy something.
So we've all heard the big dream, right? Using crypto for everything. But when you actually try to buy something simple, the whole thing can feel, well, pretty clunky. Let's really dig into a scenario that nails this issue perfectly. We're going to call it the 30-second coffee problem.
Okay, picture this. Have you ever tried to do this? You're at your favorite coffee shop, you're feeling futuristic, you want to pay with your Cardano wallet. You scan the QR code, hit send, and then nothing. You and the barista are just kind of stuck in this awkward silence, staring at each other while you wait for the blockchain to do its thing. It's slow, it's weird, and it's a massive, massive roadblock for anyone actually using this stuff in the real world.
So here's what's actually happening under the hood. The process seems simple enough, right? The seller shows a QR code, you scan it, send the payment to Layer 1, but it's step 3 that's the real killer. Everyone waits for on-chain finality. The whole checkout line grinds to a halt while the main Cardano blockchain, the Layer 1, has to confirm everything. Now don't get me wrong, this is what makes it so secure, but for user experience, it's just awful. So how long are we really talking about here?
We're talking about 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds. Now, in the crypto world, that might not sound like a lot, but at a checkout counter, that's an eternity. Nobody's going to wait that long just to get their coffee approved. And this is the exact specific problem that Chimera was built from the ground up to solve. Okay, so if the main blockchain is the bottleneck, what's the solution? Well, you build an express lane right next to it, and that's exactly what Chimera is. It's a Layer 2 payment system built on top of Cardano, designed specifically to handle these super-fast, everyday transactions. And you know, the creator of Chimera, Carson Sferbret, gave us the perfect way to think about this. He said, think of it like a PayPal on Cardano. And that just clicks, doesn't it? When you use PayPal, you're not instantly settling every single dollar on the global banking network. No way. You're using PayPal's own super-fast internal system. The big settlements happen later in batches. Chimera is bringing that exact same logic to the Cardano blockchain.
All right, so here's the more official definition, but let's break it down into plain English. When you see Layer 2, just think built on top of the main Cardano blockchain. Off-chain accounting model is a fancy way of saying it has its own separate lightning-fast ledger for payments. And settling asynchronously, that just means it syncs up with the main secure blockchain in the background so you never have to wait. It's all happening behind the scenes.
And wow, look at this comparison. This really shows you just how massive the difference is. We're going from a 30-second wait down to less than a second. Transaction costs just plummet, which suddenly makes things like true micropayments totally possible. The Layer 1 is still there, it's the bedrock, the ultimate source of security, but Chimera? That's the new express lane for all your daily commerce.
So the big question is, how does Chimera pull this off? How do you get that speed without just throwing away all the security that Cardano is known for? Well, it uses this really clever hybrid approach that gives you the absolute best of both worlds.
Let's go back to that highway idea because it works so well. Think of the main Cardano blockchain, the Layer 1, as this massive, ultra-secure highway. It's built to move really big, important stuff safely, but it can get traffic jams. Chimera is like a dedicated express lane built right alongside it. You just hop into the express lane, zip to your destination in an instant, and then you merge back out when you're done. Simple as that. Okay, so here's the nitty-gritty of how it works. You basically move some funds from the main Cardano network into a special Chimera account, which they call a head. Now, inside this head, all the payments are virtual. They're instant because they're just updating a private list. But, and this is so important, the total amount of money in that head is always anchored to the main blockchain. It's always verifiable. This means your funds are always safe and accounted for. And this design gives you some really nice little perks too, like you don't need to keep a minimum ADA balance in your wallet, and it uses a fancy multi-signature system so the operators can't just run off with your funds. But here's where it gets really cool. Chimera isn't just about making payments faster, it actually unlocks totally new ways to connect our digital world with the physical one. And honestly, the best way to get this is with a simple story. So to get the story, we first have to understand this new idea called short-term tokens. What are they? Well, they're basically digital tokens that can be created instantly on Chimera's super-fast network. Think of them as a temporary digital IOU for a real-world thing, like a product or a service. They only need to exist for the duration of the sale, and then poof, they're gone. They never even have to touch the slower main blockchain.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Imagine a fisherman. He's out on his boat, he's had an amazing day, and his nets are totally full. He wants to sell his fish the second he gets back to the dock, right? He doesn't want to waste any time.
So while he's still out at sea, he pulls out his phone and uses Chimera to instantly create, say, 100 fish tokens. Each one of those tokens is a digital claim ticket for one fresh fish. He can then put them up for sale on a marketplace right then and there.
And what happens? Local restaurants, people in town, they see the tokens for sale and buy them instantly using Chimera. So by the time our fisherman's boat even touches the port, his entire catch is already sold. All he has to do is hand over the fish to the people who show him the digital tokens. I mean, how cool is that? It's a perfect example of how you can tokenize and trade real-world stuff on the fly.
And this whole story really brings us to the bigger picture. What does a system like Chimera actually mean for Cardano, and really for crypto in general? What does this unlock?
Well, it all comes down to a few huge breakthroughs. First, you get those near-instant payments we've been talking about. Second, you can finally do true micropayments. Think about paying like 5 cents to read a news article online. Third, you get that amazing ability to tokenize and sell physical goods on the spot, just like our fishermen. And maybe most importantly, you get a user experience that's just simple. Scan a QR code, pay, and you're done. This is what makes crypto stop feeling like some complex tech experiment and start feeling like a useful tool for everyday life.
So the applications for this are pretty obvious. First and foremost, you've got point-of-sale retail. It solves our coffee problem once and for all. Then you have micropayments for all kinds of digital content, for creators, for publishers, for streamers. And third, you can power these incredibly fast-paced economies inside of apps and video games, where players need to be able to trade items in the blink of an eye. These are all huge, huge markets just waiting for a blockchain payment solution that actually works.
And this all leads us to the final really big question. For years, the entire crypto world has been chasing this dream of mass adoption. We've had the security, we've had the decentralization, but that simple everyday speed, the speed you need to buy a cup of coffee, that's always felt like the missing piece of the puzzle. With solutions like Chimera that are built for a completely seamless user experience, are we finally seeing that last barrier start to crumble? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this one.